Just really thrilled to be providing you the Coles Note. So if you missed any part of today, here's a summary, because I was listening. Yeah. So we started the day, well, I just want to remind you, this is a Living Future Symposium, and it's all about envisioning a future, a world that is culturally rich, ecologically restorative, and socially just. And I think we talked about that, and in many of the talks we've covered all of those three aspects. And it is a desired future for 7 generations, and what an honor to be doing this in the land of the Esquimalt and Songhees First Nations. So it's just great to be here. So we started, actually Brandy, you welcomed us. Welcome to our movement. So that's how the day started, and that's part of it. So I'm going to give you the summary, and while I do, think about this question, because it's going to be a focus of the conversation when you're outside with the drinks and the food. So what is one thing that you would do in terms of taking real action, putting your hands on the ground with your heads and your heart, that will make a difference to increasing the resilience of locally, of Victoria, of Saanich, of Salt Spring Island, wherever you're from. It could be at work, it could be at play, it could be at home, with your community, which was the theme, I would say, for the day. A lot about engagement and people and community. We started with our formidable and very resilient Elizabeth May. My gosh, I don't know how she does that. And she introduced us about resilience and compared that to vulnerability, and gave us she herself is a model for personal resilience in the face of the freedom, DUMB, vacuous politicians that support crap policies. My acronym is Carbon and Culturally Reprehensible Anti-Nutrition Product. But to really talk about thinking, what is the quality of thinking that we do? Not thoughting, but really present-day thinking for freedom, for Canada to be a fertile ground of ideas. So she, as you know what's going on, the freedom for democracy, for speech, and for gathering. Again, that's about community. And what were the entry points? Engaged citizenry, no means no. Later on in the day, Stephen Salter talked about in Sweden, where they make decisions, it's very onerous to make decisions, but once they come to a decision, the council lives with that decision. There's a quote that says, it takes a very long time to create the conditions under which things happen very quickly. And so sometimes that front-end investment is really worthwhile. So second point was no means no, and for us to write letters to the editors. I'm hoping at least one letter to the editor will come out of today. Stephen took us around the world, in particular with Curativa in Brazil, which is a fabulous story. If you don't know about Curativa, there's lots written about it. That leadership model of that mirror, Jamie Lerner, who just stuck with it and did the right thing and created a team around him. And it was all about conversation and engagement of the team, and that led to conversation and engagement with the citizenry. And now, even without Jamie Lerner being there, it still lives on. He took us to Sweden, great practices and examples of industrial ecology that were demonstrated with the, as he calls it, the genius of common sense, and to use our blessings. He again talked about the thinking. It's not the technology, it's not the money, it's the thinking, it's the brains. And how do we apply the brains to the problems? And he said 3 things. We have to work on ourselves. To be politically active locally. Again, shout out anybody want to write a letter to the editor or something from the media coming from today, that would be really important. And breaking down the barriers of specialists to be leaders. And I think Richard just gave us a great example of both leadership and speciality. I don't know how you, well, I know you have your secret weapon here, as they have done. That's how you get all those details in there. I'm going to jump to Roy Brooke, even though he didn't speak after Stephen, because he continued on that theme of leadership. And we talked about the brains. Roy introduced the heart as well, and we need both. and he gave us some critical factors for leadership. And he looked at he inspired us to move from sustainability 1.0, which is doing less bad, and all the great things that got us on the road to green buildings and green practices. And if we did, as my friend Bill Reed says, if we built every building to green LEED Platinum standard, would we be done? Could we walk away from the carbon problem? Would we have greenhouse gases? The answer is no. Getting to sustainability as we have defined it is really getting to zero. But Roy talked about doing moving from less bad to restorative design. So he calls it sustainability 2.0. And his solution was by bringing in the heart with the thinking. His 3 recommendations for shifting to resilience is coming together, engagement, our communities, and coming together with our networks. We don't know what each other's doing, and we all have a lot of great ideas there. Second was accountability, closing the loop with our politicians. And third was sustainability, procurement, bringing some institutions together. My friend Robin Hood is here, together with Rita, and she's from Vancouver Island University. Rita's here. Rita Fromhold, who's co-sponsored this event today, is part of University of Victoria, and they are part of 5 universities, I know, procuring sustainably for food. So there are some actions going on together. I'm going to jump back to, how can you jump back to the future with Guy Dauncey? I'm not sure. But our futurist, Guy Dauncey, we're now in the UK contingency aspect of the program today. So Guy came in with 10 themes for resilient, sustainable city, examples around the world, some current, some future, really inspirational, some that are already in the works. I know I learned a lot. It's great having those visual pictures, 100 slides, but I did learn something. 3 priorities for Victoria, actually I only have 2. One is the integrating the transportation in the CRD, a must. And 2, street level planning and neighborhoods for another thing that came in, which was celebrating with your neighbors. So we've got engagement, we've got celebration. So, continuing with the UK contingencies, Trevor Hancock talking about health in the built environment and the beauty of nature, linking well-being to quality of life. And I've never heard of smart growth being described as a medical miracle. I think it's the first time. You heard it here first. And he introduced beauty, the beauty of nature and what that does for us. Building a garden to grow people. If you were designing something to grow people, wouldn't it be different than a place where people go? Just think about that. So, and I love this quote from following the LA blackout, where people saw the Milky Way and thought it was, UFOs. What is that up in the sky? He says, if we can't see the stars, how do we know our place in the universe? And isn't that what this conference is partly about? What is our place in the universe, and how we can bring that together into life? So we got into the people, equity, and empowerment themes. Again, engagement, friends, celebration. 3 things to do locally. 1 is more affordable housing. Let's see, a shout out to, where are we here? To James Pratt. Just raise your hand there. Okay, if anybody wants to talk about affordable housing and creative solutions for that, there's James. He'll be up there after. Cafes in our parks, particularly Beacon Hill and Dallas Road. Why don't we put the cafes where people go, or where we want people to go? They will go. If you build it, they will come. 3, transform our harbor parking lots to public spaces with some great ideas for rain garden solutions, like you saw with Scott, a place where people engage with each other, enjoy life, are surrounded with beauty, and guess what? Celebrating. So that was Scott Murdoch, who gave us some ideas about water and integrating living systems into our cities. He gave some great examples in the urban environment, and it is so local, you can do it on your balcony. And you can do it in your lot, and you can do it in your parks, and you can do it at the regional level. It really is like really simple solutions. This is not super smart technology. It just are solutions, some of which you can just do with a shovel, that mimic natural living system processes. And who doesn't want to have a beautiful, dynamic, rain garden that they can go to or in their backyard. Wasn't that gorgeous? Oh, I just loved it. And he talked about solutions where there's no waste. And Richard talked about that too when we talked about the land absorbing the carbon. And when I established BC Hydro's environmental education function, it was a time when First Nations policy was coming into the BC Hydro, and I went to our First Nations people and I said, what's your word for waste? And guess what? There is no word for waste, because there is no waste. Just ask Bill McDonough. His local solution, continuing with those living systems, rain garden solutions, these will add up over time. One makes a difference. And on the home stretch with Richard Ardale, talking about moving from water to air back to land and water, ways for the land to absorb carbon into the landscape, more pretty pictures of realistic solutions, moving from waste to livingness. His 3 top priorities were 100% recycling plant in Victoria, no wet organics going out. We can really deal with those on our own. My garden thanks you. And I'm just sorry, what is CRD doing? What is CRD doing with our waste solution? It's going to put me in debt more than $750 a year just on my taxes, and we're not doing the solution that's a great solution at all. That's my advantage of having a mic. But really, some beautiful solutions. We know what we can do. We know it's not technology. It's not money. It's personal leadership. It's institutional leadership. It's moving with our hands, our heads, and our hearts. And there is one person that has put her hands in the soil, driven by her heart, and with her mind and gathering people around her, she's created a solution, and it's all demonstratable at our Eco Village. So welcome to our movement. I want to reintroduce you back to Brandy, who's going to take us home here. And our movement is demonstrated in our Eco Village. If you haven't been up there, please it's worth a trip up there.